So I go to the bank, get some money from the ATM, spend 1/3 of it on lunch. Of the remainder, I spend 1/4 to buy a book. 2/3 of what's left goes to buy a new shirt. Half goes to buy a copy of the Street Pulse, and last $5 pays for parking. How much did I have originally? This is a classic working backwards. You could set it up as an algebra problem and be kind of messy, but working backwards is pretty easy. The last thing that happened was I paid $5 for parking, and that was after spending half my money on the Street Pulse. So before I spent the money on the Street Pulse, I must have had $10. So the answer to our first leading question here is 10. So let's just check that at each stage. I had 10 minus half a 10, and sure enough, that leaves me with the $5 I paid for parking. So I had $10 right before buying the Street Pulse. Spent 5 of it on the Street Pulse, the other 5 on parking. Now, that was after, the $10 was what was left after I had spent 2/3 to buy a new shirt. So, buy a new shirt, buy a shirt with 2/3 of money, 2/3 of what I had at that point, and there's $10 left. So I bought a shirt with 2/3 of my money, and there's $10 left. Now, the common mistake students make at this stage, by the way, is to multiply the 10 by 3 and say, or to multiply, this works in this case, so we'll go to the other one. When we go back one more step, we'll see a common mistake. But 2/3 of the money leaves $10. Okay, so how much did I have? Well, that means $10 is 1/3 of what I had. Because I spent 2/3, I'm left with 1/3. So this is a little bit of baby algebra. Here's another way of thinking about it. Take the amount of money I had in before buying the shirt, divide it up into 3 equal sections. I spent 2 of them on the shirt, and what was left was $10. So each of these other sections must have been $10 also. 10 here, 10 here, and I had $30 before the shirt. Okay, so before the shirt I had 30. Okay, well, how much did I have before the book? Well, when I bought the book, how much did I spend on the book? I spent 1/4 of the money on a book. So I spent 1/4 of my money, leaving the 30. Now this is where students make a common mistake. Very often students will say, oh, he spent 1/4, leaving 30, so he must have had 4 times 30, 120. But that's not right. If I spent 1/4, what I was left with was 3/4. So I can think of it as an algebra problem. 30 equals 3/4 of what I had before, and solve that equation. Or, for those who don't like algebra, again, the picture does it very nicely. I take what I had before buying the book. Since I spent 1/4 of it, I'll divide it into 3 equal sections. I spend 1/4 of it, and the $30 I have left is split amongst these 3 equal sections, so these must be 10 each. So this one must be 10 also, which means that before buying the book I had 40. And now I'm down to the last stage, figure out how much I had at the very beginning. So the $40 is what was left after spending 1/3 on lunch. So spend 1/3, left with $40. And again, common mistake is to take the 40 and multiply it by 3. That doesn't work, because if I spend 1/3, then what I'm left with is 2/3, and so I can't just multiply that by 3. Instead, I once again set up an equation. 2/3 of the original amount is equal to 40. Spent 1/3 of it on lunch, left with 2/3. Or again, a picture does it pretty easily. Take my original amount, divide it into 3 pieces. Spent one of them on lunch, and the $40 is split between the other two, so each equal piece must be 20. So this one's 20, and original must be equal to 60. So I started with $60. And finally, on problems like this, it's easy, and you should always do it, to check just by working it forward. So I started with 60 and spent 1/3 of it on lunch. So start with 60. One-third of 60 equals 20. 60 minus 20 equals 40 after I buy lunch. Then I've got $40, and I spend 1/4 of it on a book. 1/4 of 40 equals 10. 40 minus 10 equals 30 after buying the book. Then I spend 2/3 on a shirt. 2/3 of 30 equals 20. 30 minus 20 equals 10. That's what I had after buying the shirt. And then I spend half of it on the street pulse. 1/2 of 10 equals 5. And when I spin that, I'm left with $5, which goes to parking. And so it checks. So there's a couple easy places to make mistakes on problems like these, and that's why you should always check it going forward to see if you're right. In fact, for every math problem you ever solve, you should try to think of ways to check it, to say, okay, I think I've got the answer, how can I check? Okay.